On this episode of System Integrators Weekly, huge updates from AMD and Intel. Plus, we're going to take a look at pre-built PCs from 3 different SIs. All that and more on this episode of System Integrators Weekly.
Let's go, nerds!
Hello everyone, I'm Brea Thorne. Welcome to System Integrators Weekly, where we're making some changes, so pardon our dust. It is very messy in here and dark because, I'm not trying to give too much away, but I'm changing this room a lot in order to prepare for streams starting back up, plus 2 unboxing streams coming up. That's one for, I'm gonna go ahead and give it away here, one for EK Fluid Gaming, and another one for Phoenix PC. So big stuff coming. Stay tuned for that. So at Gamescom, there were some announcements from AMD. We'll go over that are huge, absolutely freaking phenomenal. We also have a confirmation from Intel that's really, really interesting. Plus, we're going to go over 3 different SIs. So busy episode. If you want to skip around to a certain part, timestamps are in the description below. And also you'll find some links in the description below for the sponsor of this video, VIP CDK Deals.
The best place to go when you want to get yourself an OEM Windows license to get rid of that annoying watermark and unlock all the customization Windows has to offer. So instead of paying well over $100 for a retail version of Windows, you can get an OEM key for a fraction of the price. Plus, you can use my code BRE25 to get a nice fat discount off of the already discounted price. Keep in mind that this is an OEM key that gets attached to this system and cannot be used with another one or if you change your hardware. Make sure you get the right key for your operating system. For more information on how to use CDK deals, click the link in the description saying here's how it works, and I'll walk you through the whole thing. Thank you, CDK Deals, for continuing to support the channel.
Okay, so first we're going to do some news. We're going to cover some things that have come up in some things that have been announced. And this is absolutely freaking awesome. But this is what was announced by AMD at Gamescom, and it's finally here. They sure took their time for this. But generally with tech, my usual preference is that a manufacturer get it right instead of right now, So it is what it is. But what we're looking at here are finally a full bingo card for all of the awkward naming conventions you can have for your CPU and GPU put together. So yes, you can now have your Ryzen 7700X paired with your RX 7700 XTX. I'm happy because it's not just the fact that these cards are here, right here, where it says AV1 hardware encoding. Yes, that's going to be odds all the way through all of them. It's just that makes me happy. That makes me very happy. But what we're looking at here are finally a full bingo card for all of the awkward naming conventions you can have for your CPU and GPU put together. So yes, you can now have your Ryzen 7700X paired with your RX 7700 XTX. So what we're looking at here is these 2 cards, the Radeon RX 7700 XT and the RX 7800 XT, are both aimed squarely at 1440p gaming. What you're getting here is them paying attention to that and saying, well, we want to focus on that. So what they did was when they put out these numbers, they're pretty much looking at 1440p max settings for all of this. They completely ignored 1080p, and I wonder why. Regardless of whether it's it's growing within the market, purchases of 1440p monitors and all that, there's still more people gaming on 1080p. And that's something Hot Hardware mentioned in their article, and I completely agree. But this is all first-party reporting here, so take it with a grain of salt until these are released, and I think that's on September 6th. So it's right around the corner. So one of my messages in this video to you guys, if you're looking to buy something like right now, wait until third-party reviews for these cards come out. Okay, and I'm serious about that, especially if you're shopping in the mid-range, because we need to know that these claims are correct. And this only covers pretty much 1/3 of what we usually see. You'll usually see 1080p, 1440p, and 4K. I'm fairly certain they're not going to want you gaming at 4K on either of these. But yeah, this is all native 1440p at max settings, which is hard to run. But what they're trying to do, they're not trying to give you the whole rundown. They're trying to make an impression and make a point that when you look at the RX 7700 XT 12 gigs of VRAM versus the RTX 4060 Ti, which is what it's aimed at. And we'll get to pricing in a second. It's just overwhelming. Compared to the 6800 XT of the previous generation, this is coming in lower. So here are the prices that we're looking at. And it is $449 for the 7700 XT and $499 for the 7800 XT. Now take this $450, now that's only $50 difference, okay? And after that $500, it jumps up to $900. And I know that, you know, the pricing will change, but it shows right here. Does this jump right here make any sense? But the reason for this huge price differentiation here is that AMD is undercutting NVIDIA hardcore. This could have been probably a $700 card and then a $550 or $600 card, whatever. I would have liked to see the 7700 XT right at $399. At least that would jive with the $100 difference between these two, but you don't have very good product segmentation here. And what people are going to be, it's an upsell. It's going to be like, well, I might as well get the 7800 XT. But at least you got, 12 gigs of VRAM on the 7700 XT, which is plenty from almost every game. I mean, this is great. And for those SIs out there, and y'all know who you are, who just stick with Team Green, you're going to feel this one in those mid-range systems. This right here is nuts. It's been a few years now when GPUs went crazy and all that. So, we're still coming back from that. But here's what I think is happening here, okay? Because there's already rumors, which fellow YouTuber Moore's Law is Dead reported that, he leaked that NVIDIA's preparing to drop the price on the 4060 Ti. This should scare NVIDIA. This absolutely should. Because they're not just beating you on price. It's performance too, okay? Let's look at the 7800 XT versus the 4070, okay? And there are more titles here in which the 4070 does better. And you'll notice on every one of them, ray tracing is on. Once you start to go a little higher, you still see 2 titles here that have ray tracing, 3 rather, that have ray tracing where AMD is winning it. But yeah, it's looking like once you get to the next step up, the ray tracing is going to be better on the Team Green side. But when you're looking at the specs on these things, the memory bus width is just higher on these than their counterparts in the price bracket that they're in. Plus, you're also looking at good power usage on these. It drops down a decent amount from the higher end ones. That makes sense, but this doesn't tell the whole story here. I'm just really excited for this because what happened was, here's my take on this. When the dissatisfaction with 40 series mid-range, upper mid-range and down was made known and reviews were coming out, reviewers were saying, vote with your wallets, to say, don't buy them, just don't buy them. Well, guys, there's 2 sides to voting with your wallets. If you think that this performance level looks good for you, $450 or $500 is about right for the GPU that you want a game at 1440p, you can actually vote with your wallet in a different way. There's a second way to do it. When a company does something like this, when they're making a move that's like, you know what, this is good, just scare NVIDIA, let them know that the pricing is out of control for the performance that you get, and vote with your wallet on this too. So I want to see, I want to see what SIs step up and say, yes, we're carrying these. Yes, we're going to leverage those savings, pass them on, and we're going to make some awesome, well-balanced systems for gaming, for whatever purpose. These, if you wanted to do content creation, these do have AV1 encoding and decoding. It's all the good stuff. Plus, you're also looking at 16 gigs of VRAM on the 7800 XT. So 16 gigs of VRAM and a $500 GPU. Now, of course, I know that the A770 from Intel had 16 gigs of VRAM in some of the versions there, but you're also looking at a faster card here in general. But yeah, that's going to be it for AMD. My suggestion is if you're in that price range of $1,500 to $2,000, $2,500, wait. I was going to do a system for every budget kind of video, and this came out and it was like, nope, that's out the window, because that's going to be much better off around after these launch once we know what the actual numbers are, what the actual results are. So let's talk about Intel. So I caught this video on PC World. Adam was here at this Gigabyte event, looked at this handsome devil. What's up, Adam?
You're gonna want to hear this.
Yeah, they confirmed that 14th gen Intel, which is a Raptor Lake refresh, will be LGA 1700. Hallelujah. Now what that means is that, yeah, that's 3 generations-ish of CPUs for one socket. Intel, I knew you had it in you. So there are downsides to this. Most of the improvements are going to be minor from 13th gen to 14th gen. So that means if you're already on 13th gen, you're probably fine. You don't need to do nothing. Going to be more substantial going from 12th to 14th gen. This one outlier is the Core i7 14700K, because that went from being 8 performance cores, 8 efficiency cores to 8 performance cores, 12 efficiency cores. And that's going to be a much more substantial improvement in multi-threaded tasks, multi-core processes, things like that, okay? So that's going to be pretty awesome. But really the exciting thing here is that Intel, I hope, is going to roll with this, because once you go to 15th gen, which is going to be, a new architecture, then we're going to have a new socket, okay? That's going to be end of line for LGA 1700. Maybe they could squeeze 4 generations of CPUs out of that one. Guys, it's baby steps. That's really most of all I wanted to cover when it comes to tech stuff, to just a couple of big announcements that came out. There's other stuff, but there's other YouTube channels that focus more on tech news stuff. What we're doing here is we're looking at pre-builts now. This is the part where the timestamp goes where I'm about to talk about pre-builts, except I say instead, hey, here's a few disclaimers, okay? This video is being filmed for August 28th, 2023. Any pricing and availability that you see in this video is very much subject to change. If you're watching this weeks later, months later, it's definitely different, and probably new stuff has already come out. So check at the end of the video for the latest video I've done. It's gonna pop up there at the end, or just subscribe to the channel. Cuddles, just put a subscribe thing there. And another one up here, if you don't mind. Maybe have one like ease in from this side. Okay, thanks, Cuddles. Let's get like 3 more. Okay, I'm getting a little bit claustrophobic. Okay, hey, whew, yeah, enthusiasm. All right, let's just, yeah. All right, cool. Next disclaimer is that you're going to hear opinions here, and I do my best to make sure that I don't say my opinions as if I'm stating fact. They are my opinions. It's in the disclaimer. There you go. And if you disagree, that's totally fine and very natural. The next one is, of course, that this is not financial advice. I am not going to point at something and say, buy this, because I don't know your needs, your particular wants from what your PC, your budget, what you're going to use it for. So that's not what I can't do that here. I'm going to point stuff out. And if you're like, yeah, that sounds good for me, that's in my budget and that looks good. I read in the Discord that this company is really good, because in our Discord, which is linked in the description below, we have SI testimonials from actual buyers who are members of our community. That's a huge resource. That's super helpful. Go check that out. And if you do, welcome to the swarm. We're going to start this off by checking in and giving credit where credit is due really quickly with some very friendly fellows that I met up at LTX. You may recall that, a month and a half back or 2 months back, something like that, I covered GamerTech Toronto. Hey, all right. What's up, guys? They were super, super cool in person. Very nice. And they said, hey, your feedback was, we needed that. And you're right. Because if you guys recall, they had this and it has changed. They fixed it. So this section here, you have budget Intel, budget AMD, build configurators. And then you have your high-end Intel, high-end AMD. And when we looked before, budget AMD did have a budget option. It was about this, or maybe a little lower. And then their high-end one had a big difference in price for the starting price. But for budget Intel and high-end Intel, they were like $80 apart or something. Wait, so budget Intel is $2,035. High-end Intel is less than $100 more. Okay, that's what? I was like, why is the budget one starting at $2,000? And then when I clicked on it, I was like, why is there only like mid to high end CPUs in here? What is going on? Now the pricing is a lot more sensible. It makes a lot more sense. Okay. On a budget, Intel right now is kind of the pick because of the your i5s are really good for gaming. i3 right here, Core i3 12100F is now added to the list. And there you go, 12400F is right there for $84 more. Basically, that was most of the criticism I had was on some of the pricing, things like that. Now, one thing that they related in their comment response and also in person is how ungodly expensive it is to have a business in Toronto. I can't speak to that. Personally, Mr. Cuddles is from Canada, and I believe he said that, yeah, Toronto's expensive. He's also our video editor, so he'll let you know if I'm lying. One downside I will say, and this is something I mentioned in that earlier video, you have one budget case. This is the only one. It is a mesh front panel, which is nice. It's going to give you decent airflow by default. That's good. But the next case up goes up by $97. I believe this is US dollars as well. There are a ton of really good budget cases out there, guys. You got to check out Montech. You got to check out Deepcool. Like, you got to talk to these guys. Vetru has a couple of good cases too. If you want something that's like a medium where it's like, oh, this is getting towards a premium case, but it doesn't cost premium, check out the Montech Air 1000 Premium. Deepcool has a ton of really good cases. They've really been pushing that. So is Montech. There's a lot of good. The Montech. You guys don't have the Montech Sky 2. That was awesome. And then on the basic setup here, you get an air cooler, which for what is this, a 12100F? That's totally fine. You do get a B660M as your default motherboard. And it's $127 more if you want a full-sized motherboard. But still, y'all made some great improvements. That's awesome to see. I love that. So that's just a quick peek at GamerTech Toronto. Well done, guys. Love to see that. Shoot me an email. Let's just chat about cases. Also, no system should start at a 500 gig drive. They're so cheap now. Like, losing a 500 gig to, you take that away if someone chooses this and charge an addition, because you're getting charged for this overall, and charging an additional $76 at 1 terabyte M.2. This doesn't even specify if it's Gen 4 or not. I mean, you're talking about like $35. Yeah, it's one of the easiest things to upgrade to for, even newbies. I nitpicking is kind of my job. I don't do it to make anybody feel bad about what they put a lot of work into. That would be a bad way to be. I wouldn't want to be that kind of guy. But my main thing is to look out for consumers who don't pay attention to this kind of stuff. Anyway, still some fine tuning to do. And I know that you guys have to have a price markup, but it should not be more than 100%. Not ever. Never. Next, let's just honestly, I just want to take a little tour around Stincebuilt, see what's going on over here. So let's take a look at their ready to ship deals. See what's going on here. Looks like we got one for $16.99. What is this one about? Ryzen 5 5600X and a B550 Tomahawk. Kingston NV2 2 terabyte. Hell yeah, dude. And a 3060 Ti. Ripjaw's 532 gigs, DDR4 3600, of course, because it's Ryzen 5000 series. That is a pretty sweet case from Deepcool. Like, that's a unique look. I feel like the $16.99 is a little high for an EOL platform, but it's still going to be a banging system. And of course, you're getting a lot of quality from Stince. Excellent support, actually. Good build quality, things like that. If that's important to you and you want to game at 1440p, this thing will do it for you. But keep in mind that you will be locked into Ryzen 5000 series. Unless you want to drop in a 5800X 3D, there's not really much upgradability to this system. So this is a Stincebuilt Signature Series. It ships in around 7 days. And you've got your office use one. There's no GPU in there. And then you've got, I don't know if these have changed because I didn't memorize what they were before. RX 6600 XT, Ryzen 5 5600, DDR4 3600, of course, 3600 for 5000 series. There you go. Got that 1-to-1 sync. 1 terabyte M.2. Look at that. Budget system, 1 terabyte. That's what I'm talking about. This is the core signature system right here. 5600X. And 32 gigs, DDR4 3600, a 3060 Ti. That sounds familiar. Sounds like that ready to ship one. Also, I would remove this. I think I might have mentioned that before. And then you got the Pro Signature System, $2,400, 13600K, 4070 Ti, 1 terabyte Gen 4, and 32 gigs DDR5 6400. I think a banger for $2,400. It is shipped in around 7 days, fully warranted. Really nice case. Yeah, of course, the main thing here is that if you want if you want the one-on-one treatment, you can always just send in a build request. This is at the bottom of like every page, I believe. And you send in a build request, and it's going to be like, hey, here's how we can contact you, how much you're looking to spend, how soon you're looking to purchase it, what are you going to use it for? Do these questions sound familiar? Because if they don't sound familiar, twitch.tv/Brayothorn. I'm aiming probably for, not tomorrow night, that's too soon, but a week from Sunday. Now, if it ends up that's when I'm going to stream the unboxing of either the EK Fluid Gaming or that's going to be the first one, by the way. I do need to do that one first. I've had it for a little bit. If that's what I'm going to be streaming that night, it's not going to be on Twitch. It's going to be on YouTube. Stay tuned. I'll let you know. If you're like, I don't know which one's right for me. Stuff like this is a great way to get help from someone who knows, someone who understands. And the people over at Stince are very nice, and they are not just out to get you. Yeah, of course, you can also go through the system builder. If you're a little more familiar with the stuff, you can go through it yourself. You can choose one part at a time. Now, I promised you guys last episode that we looked at the Fractal North series, that we're going to do a little bit more of a deep dive into that in the next one. Guess what? The next one is now. So you want to go to ready to game PCs. Now, the MG1 series is the one that I looked at previously, so I have gone more in depth with that, but let's take a look at the North series. I did speak with someone from Maingear about the whole power supply thing before, so I think we're kind of on the same page there now. But what you'll notice is, let's zoom in a little bit. There we go. $12.99 here is $12.99 here. $14.49 here is $14.49 here. Now they're matching. But yeah, this is starting at $12.99, but you're not necessarily looking at like bottom of the barrel when it comes to like the processor. You're not looking at an i3 12100 or whatever. You're looking at a 13400F. Okay, that's a 10 core CPU in this $12.99 system. Okay, 16 gigs DDR4 3600. And every one of these has Gen 4 storage. Every one of these is on NVIDIA. Now, I have to wonder, these ones right here that are using like the 4070 and the 4060 Ti, I have to wonder, like, if you're at that price range, like this is the price range I was talking about when we were looking at the 7700 XT and 7800 XT. Basically, you can go back to that part of the video, look at the list of games, and be like, I want to play that game, I want to play that game, and that game. And if they're all where just like in the red to the right, you probably want to wait for those cards. So moving on up here, and I do want to click on these because I want to see what power supplies they're putting in these. So let's see, this one has a 4060 Ti and a 600 watt power supply. So what we can do really quickly is we'll just search it, okay? NVIDIA recommends at least a 650 watt PSU for the GeForce RTX 4060 and RTX 4060 Ti. However, considering different AIB versions of this card, some of which are overclockable and PSU efficiency figures, you would be better off with a 700 watt PSU. Now, who's saying this? CameraEgg.org. So are we to just be like, okay, sure. No, you can look a little bit more. Guru 3D, I mean, they have benchmarks, things like that, okay? Hardware reviews, all that. Let's take a look. Well, just looking at the summary here, Guru 3D is recommending a 500 watt power supply. WhatPSU.com, which I wonder what that website's for, recommends at least a 500 watt power supply for a 4060 Ti 8 gig. That's the bare minimum that some of these are recommending, and it probably tests just fine. However, what you're doing is you're kind of closing the door to future upgrades that are going to require higher power output. But this is going to be pretty much in a safe zone, I'm pretty sure. Now let's keep going through these. We're just going to go through the power supplies that we're using here. This one is a 4060. It has a 600 watt power supply. Okay, 600 watt power supply for the 4070. You're probably stretching it a bit now. 4070 Ti, is that on 600 watt? 850 watt. There we go. We did it. Okay. So I would say this DDR4 is super cheap. Now, if you're talking about spending $15 more, if you're buying in bulk, something like that, I'm throwing a number out there, and then you're going to sell 1,000 computers. Yeah, that's a lot of money, but I don't think a PC that costs $2,000 or $2,500 should have 16 gigs of RAM. It's already kind of a problem here, right? But this can be a total bottleneck right here. Anyone who on these two PCs that opens Escape from Tarkov is going to have a bad time. Some games use more RAM than others. 16 gigs is not really enough anymore for certain games, okay? Especially if someone gets into modding. Good Lord. That probably needs to change for me to be able to recommend these. The RAM on those two systems. I'm not going to harp on the power supply thing. You guys have equipment to test that stuff that I just don't. But you did bump it up here on this one, $2,500, gets you more wattage, good. I'm a little iffy on the 4070 13600K system on 600 watts. That's a little, I don't know. And at $2,000, 16 gigs of RAM, I don't think that's really acceptable there. I mean, it's in my opinion, okay? I'm Mr. Opinion Man on the internet, okay? I did mention that in the disclaimers that you probably skipped, particularly if I am speaking to someone from Maingear right now. Hello, Maingear person. I do put a disclaimer at the beginning of every video that these are my opinions and this is not financial advice. I'm not telling people what to buy. I'm giving my feedback on this stuff. And something that may be of meaningful value to you is that I have made it my job to scrutinize this market. I see trends, I see what other SIs are charging for this and for that, and I can tell you most SIs that are going to sell a system for $2,000 are going to have more RAM in that system. Now, is RAM easy to upgrade? Of course it is. It's one of the easiest upgrades you can do, but you're selling pre-builts. And you must stay in that mentality where you're putting yourself in the shoes of your buyer. And pre-built buyers, many of them are probably never going to open their system, and they don't have to. They shouldn't have to. How did I miss that? I'm all here talking about like, yeah, my job is to scrutinize and I see. How did I miss that a $2,500 system has a B660M? I don't know who spec'd this out for you, but that's a bad choice. This 13700K, this system, pop that down to 13600K and put in a good motherboard. Okay, I'm not saying B660M is bad. No. In a low mid or budget system, it's awesome. It's fine, totally fine. This is not that. This is actually where I settled on things the last time around. I think really we just need to get a review unit in, because what I'm not able to account for is, I mean, of course I've seen reviews and all that. Just send me one so I can see sort of the way that you guys do things, the way that you cable manage, the way you pack your stuff. You know, you package the PC, do all that kind of stuff. Just send me over a PC. Let me do a review. Let's get the ball rolling on that. I don't like some of those choices when it comes to, once you go to a full ATX case, I feel like you should be committed to a full ATX motherboard. I don't think anything above $1,500 or even at $1,500 should be at 16 gigs of RAM with the price of DDR4 these days. I want every SI to live up to their own mission statement, whatever you had in mind when you're like, I want to do this, I want to be the best, I want to do the best, I want that for you too. And there's some times where we lose sight of that, and that's that you get crushed by your own bottom line. It's a big responsibility to be responsible for employees, to pay overhead, to pay costs of logistics and shipping and stocking your warehouse and making sure everyone's taken care of. And in there, sometimes it's like, man, we need to shave off this much here and shave off that much there. Okay. I would rather see stuff like Gen 3 on the budget stuff. Go for it. That's perfectly acceptable. For most people, upgrading from something like an old PC that maybe is running on a SATA SSD or even a spinning hard drive, that's going to be a big upgrade anyway. Gen 3, right? You know, for the most budget one, go 13100. If it's just a gaming PC, heck yes. It's all like figuring out like what's going to be the best. I have certain standards that are opinions of mine. I don't know. I stick to those. And this is for you, the viewer, my viewers, my audience, the swarm, for you guys. When you hear me offer an olive branch like that, when I'm like being realistic and understanding that a business costs money and that you have to make certain decisions like that, that's just me understanding the industry that I've been scrutinizing for the last 2.5 years. And I've been in IT for way longer than that. I've been a custom builder since I could afford to get parts. Okay. That's not me capitulating. That's not me, trying to make anybody happy. I'm just being myself. I'm doing my best, and I'm talking about in the content creator space. You know what I'm talking about. I've realized that we really do, like, it was a fresh perspective on how we have a tendency to not put ourselves in others' shoes or think of, like, look at all the perspectives. Yeah. So I'm taking the knowledge that I've gained. I mean, times a sysadmin, doing things like large purchasing, doing entire POS system upgrades for 60 stores or whatever, things like that. You know, it's like big things. And in terms of what I was experienced with anyway, and running teams, hiring and firing, stuff like that. God, stressful stuff. It is true that stuff like that is not easy. And I just try to remember that. I don't think that there's someone behind it with a top hat and a pointy mustache going, no, it's just a business decision. I don't always like those. So I say that I don't like them. It's never personal. There have been some personal things in the past, but I'm trying not to make this like that, you know? I'm glad I took a tour through those. I feel like some of them are spec'd out where they should be, and some of them could use some tweaking, or at least for the next time y'all do a series like that. It's definitely something to think about. Like, take a step back from it and think about, like, is this a good system? Would I buy this? Would anything about this bother me? Because I know some of those things would bother me, but that's going to be it, guys. That's it for this episode. Keep an eye out for the streams coming back, and 2 unboxing and testing streams, 2 separate ones coming up very soon. Keep an eye on the old Twitter and the announcements channel in our Discord. And if you stuck around to the end, thank you very much. I appreciate you, especially. I appreciate everybody, of course. And until the next one, take care.